Hi, thanks for joining me. Welcome to Sup Cooks, and today I'm making a really simple and very delicious gazpacho recipe. And a few of the vegetables that I'm using today are 6 tomatoes, which is actually a fruit, right? Because it has seeds. So we got the tomatoes. I'm also going to add 1 Persian cucumber or a half of an English cucumber. Whatever you have on hand is fine. And this is going to be really quick and easy. What I'm doing first is just chopping everything and adding it to a bowl. I'm then going to dress the vegetables with some salt and some red wine vinegar. And you want to let that sit for a little bit. It's really going to release the water and the flavor from the vegetables. And so you definitely want to let it sit for about an hour or so. So we have our 6 tomatoes. I have my Persian cucumber. I've already washed it and I've sliced it in half. And I'm just going to go ahead and do a rough chop. Add that to the bowl as well. And I have half of a red onion. So I've actually had the onion in the freezer for about 5 minutes. Otherwise, it really makes me tear up and it makes it hard for me to chop it. So you can try that too if you have problems with tearing up while you're trying to chop onion. You can make this early on in the day and just let it sit in the fridge. The more you let it sit, the more the flavors will kind of marry together. And actually the tastier your soup will be. I'm going to use half of a green bell pepper. Go ahead and take the seeds out. The great thing, well, one of the many great things about this recipe is that you don't really have to be precise. If you don't like any of the ingredients, you can substitute or replace it with something else. You can use orange bell peppers, anything you like. I'm going to go ahead and season this with about a teaspoon or 2 of salt. So I'm not really seasoning it too much for flavor at this point. Really the point of the salt in this stage is to just draw out the water from the vegetables. And I'm also going to add red wine vinegar. You can also use sherry vinegar if you have that on hand. I'm going to do about 2 tablespoons of this. I'm just eyeballing it. You can measure if you like, but it's really not necessary. Then I'm just going to toss everything together, make sure all the veggies are coated. That cucumber smells so good already. It smells like summer, nice and fresh. So once you have everything nice and coated, you can go ahead and cover this with some plastic wrap and put it back in the fridge for about 1 hour until all the water is released from the vegetables. I'll show you what we do when we come back. So the vegetables have been marinating for over an hour now. So I'm just going to take my vegetables that have been marinating and just put them right into the food processor. You'll see a lot of the liquid from the vegetables has released into the bowl. Oopsie, lost some, but that's okay. So I'm just going to continue pouring these into my food processor. I'm saving a little bit of the water. I'm just going to reserve that, and I'm also going to add 1 slice of whole wheat bread. I'm going to remove the crust. And what I'm going to do with the bread is just tear it into this, the vegetable liquid, let it soak for about a minute, and I'm going to add this to the soup. So that'll give it a nice, thick, creamy consistency when it's all blended together. So while this sits, I'm just going to go ahead and continue to pulse my soup down. It's been about a couple minutes, and now I have a nice homogeneous consistency with my soup. I'm going to go ahead and add the soaked bread and the rest of the liquid into this food processor. I'm going to stream in some olive oil while it's working this time. So just go and turn that on. I added about a 1/4 cup of olive oil to that. I'm also going to season it at this point. I like to have a little bit of a spicy flavor, so I'm adding some dried cayenne pepper. This is about a 1/4 teaspoon. You can add more if you want it spicier, or if you don't like any heat, you can just not put this in at all. I will also add a little bit more salt and some fresh cracked black pepper. It's been in the fridge for a couple hours. It's nice and cold, very refreshing, and it has all the bright flavors of the season. So I just like to pour it into a small bowl, top it with some diced green bell peppers. This is just a suggestion, you can be creative with it. I also like to top it off with some fresh curly parsley and just a little drizzle of the olive oil. So you want to be careful in this step, you don't want to flood your soup. Just a few dots. And I'll top it off with some fresh cracked pepper. And there you have it. Could not get easier than that. You don't need to heat up the house with the stove going or anything like that. Let me taste this. It's so perfect. So I really hope that you try this recipe and leave me a comment if you have any questions or if you just want to say, hey, thank you for joining me and I'll see you again soon.